Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Unique Ways 2020 AGM. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time to join our AGM. I thought I'd start with a quote for John Lennon. Strange days indeed. Who would have thought, we're actually experiencing what we are? And we did actually think for a minute, should we go the AGM, do we need to do an AGM? And the answer is yes and yes. So we want to carry on and make things as normal as we possibly can. Obviously, it's a very different AGM. It's really stripped back. Those of you that have attended our AGMs in the past, we do really quite in-depth presentations from the staff team and present the results of our annual survey. So I'm sure you understand we've really had to pare it back. It's a stripped down version, but there are a few slides to show you towards the end. There's 4 colleagues helping today with the Unique Ways AGM. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Shona Walsh and I'm the Chief Executive of Unique Ways.
Hi, and hopefully you can hear me. I'm Oliver Wilby, Chair of the Board of Trustees for Unique Ways.
And hello, I'm Nick Wigmore. I am the Treasurer to the Board of Trustees.
And hi, I'm Martin Reynolds and I'm the Office Coordinator and also a parent member.
Thank you everybody. So that's the home team that's involved in the AGM. Just a couple of points from me regarding the format of today's event and some housekeeping points. We are recording today's AGM. And that's for 2 reasons really. One, a lot of our members would like to join us and they just can't for this hour. So after the meeting, there'll be a link to the recording sent to our members. And also it helps us with taking the minutes. So it is being recorded. Please remember that this AGM relates to last financial year. So April 19 to March 2020. You can use the chat facility for questions, but we would like to ask that you do keep it to questions and maybe not lots of comments, or you keep your comments towards the end of the meeting. That would be really helpful. We appreciate your help with that. And it's purely because when you're chairing a meeting and you do have the agenda to achieve, the governance to achieve. I've been to a few of these events can actually derail the meeting quite a bit. So we will answer any questions in the comments, but it may be after the meeting because we just want to make sure we get through the business. You will be forced on mute. That's so that we don't get any background noise. And again, we've done a few of these and you can get children, pets, animals in the background. So you are on mute. And there'll be 3 votes taking place during today's AGM. We need to, vote number 1 is adoption of the minutes of last year's AGM, which was the 7th of November. And vote number 2 is the acceptance of the annual accounts and report ending March 2020. And vote number 3 is the appointment of our auditors. Now, when it comes to voting, a pop-up voting box will appear on your screen and it will be there for about 30 seconds. If you're a member of Unique Ways, you have voting rights. So please vote yes or no. If you're not a member and you're on as a guest, one of our partners, please click abstain. Again, it just keeps things clean for us in terms of making sure we're accurate with the vote. So if you're a member, you do have voting rights, please vote. And if you're not a member, please click on the abstain button. Again, thank you for your help with that. So I'll be back in a few moments, but now I'd like to hand over to the Chair of Unique Ways, Oliver Wilby.
Thanks, Shona. I'll just make some opening remarks. Thankfully, my laptop has just come back to life. I was having quite a panic for a moment there after it shut down, which is typical for for a Zoom type meeting. So I'd just like to say many thanks, really. This is now my second year as chair of the board, and I'm pleased to say that we've had another successful year, albeit you know, the latter part of that financial year has been very tumultuous, like the rest of the world. We've had some changes to our staff team this year, with both Sunny Freeclay and Lucy Armour leaving us. I'd like to thank them for their fantastic service and wish them all the best in their new ventures. Furthermore, I'm extremely grateful to our CEO, Shona, and the current staff team for their continued support as we see demand across each of our core services continue to rise. The high standard of delivery across our core offer is acknowledged through the annual survey. And again, this year, we've seen the overall satisfaction rate from our members increase from 96% to 98%. So there's very little room for us to move further into with those standards being set quite so high. That being said, there are always areas that we want to improve as we continue to pursue a growth strategy in which we look to increase our unrestricted funds. That's to protect both our core offer, but also to diversify our offer to support more Calderdale families. Now that continues to be really challenging, especially in the current climate, but continues to be the strategic aim of the organisation going forward, and one that we continue to pursue. On that note, as I draw to an end of my opening remarks, I'd just finally like to say a huge thank you to everybody who's contributed to another fantastic year. That includes members, that includes funders, that includes trustees, as well as the CEO and staff team that I've already mentioned. And hopefully we look forward to continuing to support Calderdale families through the year ahead, which will hopefully start to see a few changes that don't make it quite so difficult. So Shona, first of all, could I just ask you to read out any apologies before we just go forward to approve the minutes of last year's AGM?
Yes, we have apologies from Marcus Thompson, who's a trustee of Unique Ways, Alison Fielding, who's a trustee of Unique Ways, Steve Duncan, who's the CEO of the Community Foundation for Calderdale.
Thank you, Shona. So the second part of my role for today is just ensuring that we approve the minutes of the AGM from last year, so Thursday, the 7th of November 2019. Now you should have had copies issued out to you in advance of the meeting, but you can see that Martin has just kindly put those up on screen. We basically just want to ensure that these are recorded as a true and accurate reflection. So as we run through these, it's obviously going to be very difficult for you to review these on the screen. Hopefully you've had a chance in advance, but Martin will shortly put the vote up. And as Shona said at the beginning of the meeting, if you are a voting member, please click accept to accept those as a true and accurate copy. If you're not a voting member, you have the option to abstain there. So this will just take us a short time just to scroll through these, because we're not going to read them out on the meeting itself. Okay, thank you, Martin. And as you can see, there's the voting buttons. So members, if you could please, click on yes to approve those minutes. If you're not a voting member, if you could just click on the abstain and just submit that. Okay, super. Thank you very much. So hopefully that's a reflection of members and non-members who are on the call today. So that concludes my element. So on that note, I will just hand over and introduce our treasurer, Nick Wigmore. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver. And that was It was like the opening credits of Star Wars there, wasn't it? With the rolling text. I provided my own music for that. But so this part of the report is the presentation of the financial statements year ending 31st of March 2020. So just think pre-COVID for this. But before I start on the main report, you may have noticed that on page 6 of the report, there is a coronavirus impact assessment. And although this very largely refers to events outside of the reporting period, we've been asked by our auditor to provide a statement, and it would be remiss of us when we've got the opportunity to meet with members not to refer to this. So in brief, it states that the trustees have reassessed the charity's ability to continue for at least 12 months from the date that the accounts are approved. And we've concluded that there are no material uncertainties that exist that cast significant doubts on the charity's ability to continue as a going concern. So I thought I'd refer to that, although strictly speaking, it's not for the reporting period of the AGM. So as you'll probably realise, the board's role is to ensure that we manage Unique Way's finances in a way that enables us to most effectively support our members and achieve our objectives as a charity. And we regularly review our finances, our income and expenditure and projected needs. And we're very grateful that this information is always provided in detail and with complete transparency. Martin has put up a very brief series of bullet points on the screen, but you can see a sort of full page summary on the very last page of the report, page 20. And this will tell you that our income for the reporting period to March the 31st was £206,576. Our expenditure was slightly less than that at 203,860, which gives us a net income of £2,715, plus a bit extra £782, which is an actuarial gain from the defined pension fund. All of that information is broken down on the summary sheet at the end of the report. So the carried forward balance for up to March 2020 was £69,891. And compare this to last year, it was £66,484. So there is a sort of net increase there of around about £3,000 plus. And you can get that figure by adding £2,715 to £782. So the charity's free reserves for this period were £52,405, and basically to ensure we have financial viability, we aim for reserves of £50,000 alongside the long-term pension liability that we have, which is £26,147. We aim to generate more income through fundraising to build our unrestricted reserves. I do want to talk a bit about the pension situation. This information is on page 14 of the report. And we participate in the TPT Retirement Solutions pension scheme. And those of you who have attended AGMs in the past 2 or 3 years will know that there was a full actuarial valuation of the scheme carried out in 2016. And this valuation showed that scheme-wide, there was a deficit of £24.8 million. And to eliminate this shortfall, the trustee of the main fund has asked participating employers to contribute additional payments. The breakdown of those contributions are on page 16. Currently, our annual contributions to this deficit range, they're approximately £3,500 per year. So we're certainly not paying back £24.8 million. We are contributing to those repayments alongside lots of other employers. So looking at the summary sheet, you'll see that our unrestricted income is significantly less than our restricted income. And this is something that moving forward, we want to address through increased fundraising, donations, and so on, which is I'm sure something that Shona will be referring to later on. So on behalf of the board, I would like to thank, as Oliver has already done, the entire Unique Ways team for the hard work and attention given to ensuring that our organisation remains viable, particularly in these difficult times. We can't be complacent within an increasingly tight financial landscape, and we do ask our members and friends to provide that financial support, however modest that may be, to help us continue our important work. So on that, I move that the financial statements for year ending 31st of March 2020 be adopted, and this is being formally seconded by Pete Roos. So if you can click there, again, if you're a member, you do have a voting right. If not, you can abstain from that vote. If you could submit your votes there. Oh, here we are. This is an exciting moment. We have the results. So thank you very much for supporting that and agreeing the finances. Every year, we're asked to formally agree our independent auditor for the organisation. The support and advice provided by our auditor, Helen Galvin of West Yorkshire Community Accounting Services, has been consistent, robust, and indeed challenging. I therefore, first of all, wish to extend our thanks to Helen for that advice and support, and I move that we continue with the auditing services for the present financial year. And again, this is formally seconded by Pete Roos. So could we have that? And again, usual thing applies. If you have voting rights, please vote, and if not, please abstain. Okay, thank you very much. So both of those have been carried, and apologies for the interruption, but that ends my report. Thank you very much.
So hi everybody, Shona again, back to me. Just before the next slide comes up, this section is really where we celebrate the success and the achievements of last financial year for Unique Ways. Again, just a reminder, we're reporting on up to March 2020. The slide that you're going to see, there's a lot of information on it, but I will talk you through it. As I say, we just really had to try and reduce the number of slides that we'd usually share with you at our AGM. So we call it our year in numbers, or the scores on the doors I tend to refer to it as. Here it is. So I'll just talk you through from left to right. So last year, we helped 121 families with the Section A part of Education, Health and Care Plans. And that support is through Helen Norris, our independent supporter. And I just wanted to say, I think it's really, really important that Calderdale has that position. As I say, it's independent support, and I think that's vital. Just bear with me, but on that, compared with the previous year, is a 9% 28% increase on year 18-19 in terms of the number of families helped with EHCPs. In addition to that, we helped 32 families with general education inquiries. Again, that comes through to Helen, and that's a 28% increase on last year. Moving on to the panel in the middle, the sort of a burgundy coloured one. Self-advocacy. I do feel that, as I've said before, the name of this role didn't really depict what the role did, if that makes sense. So it was about helping families with support in very complex forums, and we helped 303 families last year with forums like DLA, PIP, Carers Allowance, Short Breaks, the Neurodevelopmental Questionnaire, and grants for things like the Family Fund. And that was a 17% increase on families helped in the previous year. We ran 61 sleep clinics last year, and that was an 80% increase on the previous year. And we helped 201 families with general support and signposting. And if I'm honest, I think that's quite conservative, because I think if I take myself like the rest of the team, sometimes it's a quick phone call or sending a family a link to the local offer, and you know that you can help them really quickly and it just takes a few moments. And I'm guilty not putting that on the database, and I'm sure that's the same for the rest of the team, because you can actually respond quite quickly. So that 201 with general support, I do think is really conservative. And my screen is being blocked. I think it's 406 or 401 families that attended peer support. Peer support is our coffee mornings and afternoon teas. And that was a 6% increase on last year, because we really had a big step up the previous year. Just on peer support, over the last few years, we really made quite a step change in moving from a Halifax-centric approach and everything taking place at our office on Hanson Lane. Calderdale is ranked as a rural location, and we know it's not a huge geographical patch, but it is long and thin. So for me, it was really important that we achieved reach for our families and made it as easy as possible. As I've said before, if you were a mum in Todmorden, a couple of kids had to rely on public transport, you wouldn't traipse up to Hanson Lane. So it's really important that our peer support was based in the community that, you know, where our members are. So we call that our year in numbers. It was such an impressive year in terms of our achievements, but never forget that those numbers are actually families helped. And, you know, sometimes it looks a bit stark and cold when you look at this, but it's important that we monitor what we achieve in a year. You know, what gets measured gets done. The old saying is true. And we need to be able to evaluate the success or otherwise of our services for our funders. And also it's important that we continue to be needs-led as a charity and make sure that our service offer is fit for purpose. On top of that, I just wanted to say that we ran 7 free training courses last year, and we attracted 61 participants on those training courses. And we're able to do that through our funding from Calderdale Council. We're able to offer those courses free to our members because of the support we get for the council. So that's a further 61 families supported through our training courses. And we actually put fewer courses on last year than the previous year, but we helped more, we had more attendees, and that's better for us. Fewer courses with more participants per course is the right way to go. So that was a snapshot of last year. And I'm now going to move on to The end of March 2020 also saw the end of a 3-year project for Unique Ways, which some of you will know we called our Ordinary Lives project, and that was funded through the National Lottery Community Fund. We called it Ordinary Lives because a comment we hear from our members quite a lot is, we just want to live an ordinary life, or we want to live as ordinary a life as possible. So the Ordinary Life project enabled us to package up our core services into one project, which National Lottery and other funders like that approach. And it meant that we could show that our service offer truly complemented each other, because it's not unusual for one family to be supported, say, through an EHCP to also be accessing sleep or another services. So it's really important, as I say, our services meet the needs of our members. And in an ideal world, it means that families don't need to be finding the service. You know, if you can support families through one organisation, that's better for the family. But we don't pretend to be a one-stop shop, because we would rather be really good at the services that we do offer and not spread ourselves too thin, and make sure we complement what other support is provided by the voluntary sector in Calderdale. So as I say, this was funded through one funder, the lottery. And in addition to that, there was our training course support funded through the local council, and our ASD training course project and peer support, which was a pilot project funded through the CCG through the ASD steering group. So I'm just going to quickly talk you through left to right here. In the 3 years, we helped 121 families with sleep support. I'll come back to peer support in a moment. 201 families supported through general support and signposting. 303 families helped through helping with complex forums, and 404 families help with independent education support. So in 3 years, we helped nearly 2,000 local Calderdale families. I think that slide really speaks for itself, success of that project. And it has been extended through emergency COVID funding. So we are still offering Ordinary Lives virtually at the moment. And we are now in discussions with the lottery again for the possibility of another 3-year support. Just going back to peer support, 825 families supported through coffee mornings and afternoon teas across the borough. Peer support is really important, because it's not just turning up for a chat and cup of tea, cup of coffee. It's what actually comes out of that session. It's families getting the chance to share problems with other families, but also when our staff team are in the session, it's, well, do you know that we offer this, or do you know that you can help, you can provide help for that through another organisation. So it's where you pick up a lot of the intricacies that the family actually need. Before, I'd like to now talk the next slide about Family Voice Calderdale. So as most of you know, Family Voice Calderdale is a distinct project of Unique Ways. I think it's really important that when we think of Unique Ways, we think of Unique Ways as being like the umbrella organisation, and 2 clear strands coming down from Unique Ways. So you've got our service offer. What services do we directly provide to Calderdale families to support them? And Family Voice is the voice and influence part of our organisation, who can change things for families going forward for future generations. It's really important they're separate but complement each other. Excuse me. So we'll talk you through, I just wanted to say as well that Family Voice are part of a national organisation called NNPCF, the National Network of Parent Carer Forums. And Calderdale was one of the first areas to have a parent carer forum. And I was on a training course recently, and it's clear that parent carer forums are now, they're gathering momentum in how they're being viewed by government. They're being consulted on a lot more and seen as troops on the ground, you know, what is being said and experienced at a local level. So this movement is only going to grow in strength. And there has been a step change, I'd say, in the last 18 months. So it's a very influential network at a national level. As I say, being consulted on by various government departments now. So how Family Voice works is a steering group, and there's 9 members on the steering group at the moment. Always looking for new members to the steering group, but you really need to think about where you are in your journey. If you're immersed in an issue, it's probably not the right time, or if it's the beginning of your journey, for you to join Family Voice steering group, because it's not about your individual issue and it's not about casework. So it's probably best if you're further down the road on your journey and you can maybe reflect back on your own experiences, but apply them to helping families now or future generations. But if you do feel that you've got something to contribute, we Family Voice are always interested in hearing from people willing to represent the voice of parent carers in Calderdale and be active and join the steering group. The Family Voice have continued to meet right through the pandemic. Obviously, they're meeting virtually at the moment, but they meet once a month at lunchtime for about an hour and a half. At this point, I'd just like to thank the 2 co-chairs, because we have 2 co-chairs of Family Voice. So I'd really like to thank Pete Roos and Gabriella Walker for driving forward the strategic direction of Family Voice and making sure it's still relevant, and for the work they continue to do. As volunteers, we need to remember day in, day out for Family Voice. So last year there was 26 strategic meetings and 10 regional parent carer events. As I talked about, it's a national network, and the structure is there's a regional structure below that. There's 149 hours of co-production last year, but the important one for me is the one below. 303 parents' views contributed through focus group surveys and consultations last year, and 7 engagement events attended by Family Voice. And those of you who were at Family Voice conference last February at Calderdale College will remember that's when the launch of the Charter for Co-production took place. And I don't think Pete and Gabby will mind me saying, but this took a long time to produce. It was about 18 months, 2 years in production. But what Family Voice didn't do is just look and see what other parent carer forums were doing and copy. They actually worked the bottom up and thought, what needs to be in a charter for co-production? And, you know, a charter for co-production should be co-produced, and it was with our partners in the local authority and the CCG. So it was truly a piece of co-production in itself, and is now active and used in Calderdale. So it was a really good year, and that was one of the key achievements in producing the Charter for Co-production. Just before I move on, it's same appeal really. If you're interested in becoming a trustee of Unique Ways, we're always looking to strengthen the board. We have 7 volunteer trustee members at the moment. 5 of those are parent carers. You don't need to be a parent carer yourself, but it is important obviously with the nature of the organisation that we always have a strong parent carer contingent on the board, but it's not essential you need to be a parent carer. We're quite fussy. We don't take anyone. It's not about having, it's not a numbers game about numbers on the board. It's about what you can offer with your skills and experience and transferable skills. So we do look at the needs assessments that what type of skills do we need on the board. But if you are interested in becoming a Family Voice steering group member or a trustee of Unique Ways, the door's always open, always keen to have a conversation if you're interested in that. Just before I move on to the final slide, we talk at our usual normal AGMs a lot about our annual survey. Now we're late this year. We usually have the presentation ready in September and we've just got it finished in November, so we're about 2 months late. But after this AGM, you will be sent a link to a full presentation of our annual survey. So I've just gave you, one slide on last financial year, but the full presentation is available to you. And I suggest you sit down with a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or your drink of choice and review the results, because it's really important. That's parent carers' feedback on statutory services in Calderdale and what their lived experience was last year. So as I say, after this you'll receive a link to our annual survey. So I've got a final slide to share with you. I think we've showed in the slide for last year and the slide over the 3 years of Ordinary Lives, I think we can easily demonstrate our impact as a small charity. We can show that we definitely meet the needs of families, and in terms of quantities, how many local families we are helping. But if I'm really honest, Unique Ways need the help of our members too. It does need to be a relationship, a two-way relationship. We tried really for this AGM not to focus on COVID in the last 8 months. But we need to be honest, it's really had an effect on our charity as well as the whole of the voluntary sector. A phrase that you'll hear a lot is never more needed. So the voluntary sector has had to step in again, as it always does. But when we look at how the voluntary sector is funded, including ourselves, a lot of the payment models are payment by results. So if we have not been able to be open and active in helping families face to face in the way that we usually would in normal times, it means that we have not been able to draw down the funding for that because it's a payment by results model. But we still need to pay the salaries, we still need to pay the rent on the office, the utility bills. Our outgoings have not reduced at all, but the income has, just putting it bluntly. So we are asking for help from our members, from our partners, from your friends, from your colleagues, from your networks to actually support Unique Ways. And I know it's a difficult time. I know people have lost their jobs, been made redundant. I really understand that, but I wouldn't be doing my job either if I don't ask or raise awareness that we need support as well. So if you are in a position to give, and if you've not thought about your Christmas donations yet, we would love you to support our charity. And that could be either a one-off donation by texting Unique 5, Unique 10 or Unique 20 to 70085. Or we'd love it if you could set up a regular donation to Unique Ways. So you could text Unique 3 to 70490 to donate £3 a month. Now, you'll hear a lot of charities saying £3 a month, and the reason is it's less than £1 a week. And it is a numbers game, because if we had £3 doesn't sound much, but if you have lots of £3, that is unrestricted income that Nick referred to earlier, that we can use as we choose, or we need to use, rather than it being through a specific project. So it's really important that charities do have income streams that fund specific projects, but it's also really important that we have unrestricted income coming in, fundraised income or donations. Excuse me. So if you are in a position that you'd be able to help us, in advance, thank you, because we really appreciate each and every single donation, and I think we can demonstrate what we achieve with that money for Calderdale families. So I'm going to leave that up so that you can maybe take a note of the text number. And I know there's been a few thank yous so far, but from me, I would like to thank the trustees, because they are volunteers, for their commitment. They have continued to meet throughout this last 8 months. So I'd like to thank the trustees for their commitment to looking at how Unique Ways can best support families and what the structure should be to enable us to do that. I'd like to thank Family Voice Steering Group members who are also volunteers, our trainers who help with their training courses who are volunteers, and we have 2 office-based volunteers, Kavita and Liz, who obviously we've not seen for some time, but we would really like to thank them, because we couldn't operate without the support of our volunteers. They're just crucial to the work that Unique Ways does. Finally, to the staff team, last but by no means least, to Martin, who's literally our office coordinator, and he's the man behind the curtain at the moment because he's operating these slides for me. My IT skills are not the best. So to Martin, to Helen, our independent supporter and education practitioner, for all that she achieves for our families, to Amanda, our membership officer, for being the first port of call for our families and making sure the membership forms are inputted quickly, and then we can start to help families. And to Heidi, our Family Voice coordinator. So Heidi's supports Family Voice, but she's an integral part of the Unique Ways team. So thank you from me to the staff team for all that you do for Calderdale families and all that you do for Unique Ways and Family Voice. I think my voice is starting to go, sorry, I'm a bit croaky. So just a reminder, when you're looking at this last slide, keep in mind the previous slides about the families that we helped last year and the families that we've helped over the last 3 years. And keep in mind that we want to be around for the next 17 years to help future generations of Calderdale families. Finally, from me, I'm usually a big believer in keeping Christmas in December, but I think it's an exceptional year, and I think we're allowed to start talking about Christmas and celebrating Christmas early. So from me, if I'm not going to get a chance to see you, I hope you all have a really happy, peaceful Christmas, and we get to see our families. And I hope to see you face to face in 2021, and we'll be back bigger and better than we've ever been. So thank you very much, everybody, for taking part and joining us in our AGM. Hope to see you all soon.